So thank you all for joining us today. My name is Morgan Goldsmith. I am a registered nurse and director of clinical services for Hofstra Corporation with the Macy Catheter team. Today, I'm honored to introduce Patti Moore, who will be presenting and introducing her exciting new program, Coaching for High Performance. Patti began her career in the nursing profession, where her commitment to service and compassionate leadership first took root, eventually becoming executive director of Hospice of North Central Florida, which is now Haven Hospice. Patti led that organization to a position of national prominence and through significant growth. In 1999, she formed the Watershed Group, which is a nationwide strategic consulting, speaking, and coaching company based on hospice concepts of care. She helps organizations manage change into positive growth and financial stability, and her insights help clients create and sustain high-performance cultures in order to realize their full potential, even in periods of significant change and transition. Patti's a nationally recognized subject matter expert in hospice and end-of-life care, inspired leadership and team development, mission and vision alignment, and creating cultures of care and competence. Thank you so much for joining us today, Patti. It's an honor to have you. We're very much looking forward to this presentation, and I will turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Morgan. I appreciate those kind words, and welcome everybody. I'm really happy to be here and happy to know that I'm going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is coaching for high performance. So I want to jump right in and start with this quote by Peter Drucker. The leader of the past was a person who told, and the leader of the future is a person who asks. So, you know, we're in a new millennium and we have new places of work. We have new workers. We have staff have many more choices of where they work and how they work. And so today we're going to talk about managing people using a coaching method instead of the typical standard direct and control kind of management that we've known from the past. But first, before we go into how do you manage or how do you coach others, I've become a high performance certified high performance coach, and I want to have you have a little taste of what it's like to be coached, and see if you can also take some notes on the questions that I ask you, but I also want you to think about the answers for yourself as someone being coached. So we're going to have a little time talking about what it feels like to be a high performance coach, me coaching you, and then I'm going to give you tips and techniques and questions to ask to be a coachee, a coaching supervisor, a coaching leader, a coaching manager. So I hope that will work for you. So coaching is defined in the Wikipedia as the act of providing positive support and feedback, occasional advice to an individual or group, and helping them recognize ways that they can improve the effectiveness of their work. So that's the standard definition of what coaching is. And this is a professional coaching or business coaching. It means asking questions, not simply gathering facts and coming up with solutions, but helping the employee be developed into the best person they can be. It really is like the Socratic method of asking questions and pulling from within what people already have. And so that's what I like so much. It's like holding a mirror up and helping people to see the best parts of them, because that's what a coach does. High performance coaching is defined as excelling and exceeding beyond the standard norm consistently over the long haul. High performance coaching was developed by a man named Brendan Burchard, and he is, can you see that? That something that came up on my screen. Sorry about that. I don't want to leave this meeting. I want to stay. Okay. So isn't technology great? Don't you love it? High performance coaching is helps people move forward and keep you on track of not only what you want in your business and your career and your profession, but also in your life. And it helps you become the person that you would like to be all on a consistent basis over the long haul. So high performance coaching is what I believe is something different from standard coaching. It really is helping people to get beyond their help people get beyond where they are ordinarily. Okay, so now my clicker's not working, and I may have to escape. Let's see.
You know what?
Here we go.
Oh. Patti, there you go.
All right. So it's adjusting to whatever comes to you and staying focused and being upbeat. High performance in our lives is really a result of these 5 sustained levels of clarity, energy, courage, productivity, and influence. So it's focusing on those things so that you can maintain those throughout all aspects of your life, not just your work life, because we're more than just who we bring to work. We're a whole human being, and we have to focus on these aspects of our life in all aspects of our life. You know, as Morgan said, I'm going to be offering a high performance group coaching program, and you're the first group I'm presenting it to. So I'll talk a little bit more at the end if anybody's interested, but I'm looking at these 5 areas of high performance, and the first is clarity. And so all high performers have an unconscious But when you're pulled in lots of different directions, as I know every one of you are, it's really important to make sure you have the energy and the vibrancy to do the job and the work that you do. So what are you doing to build up your energy and your vibrancy? The next topic is of high performance habits is one of my favorites, and it's courage. And you think, you know, what is courage? It's not just, you know, facing down the boogeyman, but when is the last time you had a courageous conversation with someone? And who was it? Or when is the last time you thought, I wish I could have a courageous conversation with someone? If you start to ask yourself these questions, you begin to see what else in your life is that you might have been neglecting because you've been so focused on doing your job or taking care of the kids or keeping the house up or whatever it might be, or your parents, or whoever that you're also caring for. But also, do you have the courage to speak up for your own ideas and speak up for yourself? Courage, it takes courage to know what you stand for and what you want in life, and to not be afraid to step into that. But it does take courage. Then the third topic of high performance is productivity. And it's not just what's on your to-do list and have you got those checked off, which is great. You know, I love to have the list and then check them off and feel so accomplished. But how productive have you felt in the last 2 weeks? We're coming out of a holiday, the big holiday season where there's a lot of time off, and we're at middle of January. And how productive have you felt in these first 2 weeks of the new year? But productivity is more than just your to-do list. It's asking yourself, are you living the life that you want? And with every action that you do, is that contributing to your purpose, your greater purpose in life? Is that adding value to your life? So is this, hopefully this hour or 50 minutes that you're spending right now is adding value to your life. But I think asking those questions of yourself, of every activity that you're doing, spending an hour and a half on Facebook, spending an hour and a half sitting in front of the TV watching the news that is often horrible and thinking, what can I do about that? Well, nothing. Maybe you could be more productive in thinking about doing something more positive that would add value to your life. That's a high-performing habit. And then the fifth word of high-performing habits is influence. I was coaching a doctor today who's going to be a medical director. She's going from a hospice physician to a medical director. And she said, I was asking her what she was looking for and what she wanted in her next step and what she needed to focus on. And she said something I thought was really interesting. And I think it rings true for a lot of clinicians. She said, I'm really good at patient talk, but I'm not so good at colleague talk. I know how to talk to patients. I feel very comfortable talking with them because I'm in charge of that experience. But when I am with a team, I have a hard time, she said, figuring out how to speak with them as a colleague. And so it's a matter of influence for her that she wants to spend some time on. So I would ask you, are you developing influence in your life? Who are the relationships that you are wanting to make sure you're strengthening so that who knows how you could help someone or they could help you in the future? When was the last time that you told someone that you respected and honored them for something that they did? That you respected and honored them for something they did or said. We can think these things and we can think, oh, that was a really nice thing that person did. But unless you take the time to take the action to give someone that kind of feedback, then you're not creating influence with them. And I believe we are in a new movement of relationships, and the way we keep and honor our relationships with others I think, can change the world. So how was that little exercise of being coached on those 5 areas of high performance? This is the book that I did my training with, Brendan Bouchard. He trains he's trained about 450 people in high performance coaching. And I am fortunate enough to be one of them. And I've I really have enjoyed it, and it's a focused way of framework of working with people over 12 sessions to create habits that will carry them into being high performers. So let's talk a little bit now about the different coaching models that you can do as a supervisor. Will that be all right? Good. Hopefully you're nodding. So there's a simple model called 1, 2, 3 coach. And, coaches come in all shapes and sizes. And it's about listening, and first of all, listening, being a listener rather than a chatter. It's about learning about the other person. It's about helping them to be empowered to discover their answers to the questions that you're asking, and find from deep within what each person values. And then helping to recap that, and then helping them take action. And then the other model of who are they? Who is this person that you're coaching? What are they up to? What are they interested in? What are their areas of advancement? And then how are they doing? So let's talk a little bit about this supervisory coaching and what you need to do as a supervisor, as a leader, as a colleague. You ought to try this as a parent and see if some of these coaching techniques might work for you as a parent or in your personal life. So you absolutely need professional relationships and rapport. You need measurable goals. What are their goals? What are your goals for them? Encouragement and acknowledgement, probably among the most important things that you can do as a supervisor. And then finally, accountability. Walking with someone, when someone says, I have a dream and I want to get there, and then you help them do that by holding them accountable to their dreams. It's not yours. Well, maybe it is if you're the supervisor, but helping people to stay accountable to what they want to achieve in life. So first of all, managers have to be present. If you want to coach, use the coaching method. You have to be present and listen to your employee fully. That means not thinking about your to-do list, not thinking about the 5 other things you have to do. It means being present and being quiet and not judging. It's this loving neutrality of, I am going to stay neutral, and no matter what someone says, I'm not going to go, are you kidding me? You did that? But rather, that's an interesting way to have handled something. And you're going to get to know the person behind the title. So listening is most important. And then asking the employee, what are your personal goals for work here? The organization has strategic goals and things that you have to come up to, but people can have their own way of attaining those goals. They don't have to be yours. Your way of doing it may be not the way they want to accomplishment, and you can get to the same outcome in different directions. Ask them what they would like to be responsible for. So suggest how they could contribute instead of just telling them what to do. When you have somebody come in and you tell them what to do, then they're not going to own that. They have to be engaged with what they would like to do in order to further the goals of the organization. Giving positive feedback, and this might be one of the most important things any coach can do. And you acknowledge them for their achievements and acknowledge them for the progress that they're making. And don't wait for someone to have an annual evaluation. It means doing that right at the immediate time that someone has done something well. Empowering people to make their own decisions is really important. And, when I was the executive director, when we worked with families, the interdisciplinary team would, I believe, act as coaches for families and patients. They would not make the decision for them about whether they continued care or not, but help them see the possibilities so that they would empower that patient and the family to make their own decisions. So imagine trying that same style with your employees. How do you think they would react? Imagine your boss treating you that way. I think once you start to turn that around and think what we do for our patients and families, how would it be if we did that for one another? I think you could change an organization and change the culture of an organization. Instead of identifying problems, you identify opportunities and the strengths of someone. So coaching is really very different from just our standard supervision. So here's Shamu, and there was a great article about how they train Shamu. Shamu is only given positive reinforcement. If Shamu does with the tricks that the trainer likes, it's all about loving Shamu, giving him extra food and encouragement. But as soon as Shamu does something they don't like, the coach turns their back and just ignores that behavior. And there was a journalist who wrote a story about how Shamu was trained, and she said she was going to try that with her husband, that every morning he'd come down, he couldn't find his keys. Where are keys? Help me find my keys. And she would get caught up in trying to find his keys every day. So she said that one day she thought, okay, Shamu, this is it. So where are my keys? Where are my keys? And she just turned her back, continued doing breakfast, didn't get engaged with all that falderall. And she said after about the fourth day, he came down and he didn't ask her where the keys were. And she was training him with positive reinforcement, like they're training Shamu. So try it with your family or your friends or someone that you want to see if that only positive reinforcement, and see what happens. And then accountability, because everybody needs an accountability partner from time to time. I used to be a runner, and I would more likely go out and run if I knew I had someone that I had to meet up with. If they weren't waiting for me, I could kind of, think, well, I don't have time right now. So accountability is like holding a mirror up and helping them to remind them of what they said they were going to do. And so it's not you telling someone what to do. You're asking them what it is they want to do to achieve those goals, and then rigorously believing in their ability to do that, and then holding them accountable when they might not have lived up to what they wanted to. So the first thing you have to really do is know your employees and know what kind of encouragement they're looking for. It might be a note. It might be an email. It might be saying in front of the team, I really appreciated Mary's work with that patient or that vendor today. So each coach knows their coachee and understands what they need person by person. So remember, the work of coaching is done by the coachee, not by the coach. It's when a family member would say to us after the patient had died, I am so proud of what we did for mom or dad. I really feel like we stepped up and did our part. Then that was the greatest news I could ever hear, because that meant that our team supported that system that was there for them to feel like they have achieved what they wanted to for their loved one who was dying. So that's what the coach does. You're helping that employee to live their best at work. And it's not you doing the work, it's them. So in order to be a good coach, these are the things that you need, and there's no getting around it. You have to provide unconditional support. People that tell you Private things must stay private. Confidentiality is absolutely, absolutely essential. You have to be honest and give honest feedback, and there has to be a level of trust. And that trust, in order to have a coaching atmosphere in an organization, trust has to happen from the top down. It has to happen from the CEO or executive director down all the way down, up and down, to trust one another. And that can then lead to a trust in your staff. Coaching is about developing someone to be their best self and contribute their best fit to an organization and in their life. It enhances performance, action, creativity, and it can create transformation. I have seen it and I've lived it. I've had coaches. I have a coach right now, and it's a wonderful thing. So let me tell you what coaching is not. Coaching is not management repackaged. It's not, sometimes you have to give someone feedback, and that's direct, because they might not be doing their job. It's not performance improvement plans. It's not controlling or solving other people's problems. It's also not training. It's not consulting. I have to be very careful, because I am a consultant as well, as many of you know. Consultants assess and then give their best opinion about how to fix things. Coaches don't do that. Coaching is about the process of helping people find their best self. And I like to think sometimes social workers are better at this than nurses are, because, I'm a nurse and I can say this because nurses are taught to fix things. And social workers are more about the process of helping people to define and discover their own strengths. So I've just found that interesting, that sometimes that, our clinical background of fixing things sometimes doesn't automatically transition into being a good coach. It's also not counseling or therapy, because that is often about the past, what happened in the past, versus coaching, which is what is about the future. The counseling sometimes is about what you did wrong, and coaching is about how can you find some breakthroughs and empower people to discover for themselves what is their strengths and the best things about themselves. So I love the quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, is the ancestor of an action is a thought. So if you allow people to have time to think about who they are, what their strengths are, what's the clarity in their life, who are they, then it can help people develop individual resilience and really improve their performance. So I'd like to talk a little bit, I hope I'm not going too fast, but let's talk about some coaching questions. And you might want to write some of these down. And I can even give you some of these examples when Morgan sends out her follow-up. But coaching questions it's just around the language that you use and how people will respond to you. If you only use why questions, it often makes people more defensive and feels like they have to justify themselves. And you might even think about how many times people have asked you, well, why do you think that way? Why did you come up with that decision? And it sometimes is very defensive, feeling very defensive. So I would rather have you ask the question of what? What's the first step to achieve that? Or what's the number one thing that you got out of this session? Or what do you think is blocking you from coming up with a solution? So if you look at these questions and then put the word why in front of it, how does that feel? Why are Why can't you get past this block? Why haven't you found the main obstacle to achieving this? Tell me why you're going to come up with something, why you can't come up with some answers between now and the next time we meet. What will help you discover more about someone than why? Sometimes you have to ask why, but start with the what questions first. Then I want to talk a little bit about the learner mindset being a coaching mindset. Dr. Marilee Adams has a Inquiry Institute, and she talks about the difference between the judger and the learner mindset. So if you think about the worst boss you've ever had, and hopefully you haven't had many, or maybe one, but I'm an old nurse, and I had some really frightening nurses who were bosses in my younger days. And often they were judgers. They were dismissive, they were know-it-alls, they were inflexible. It was either or. I was afraid of them, and they were defending their position. I think the 21st century mindset has to be a learner mindset. Millennials they'll quit before they work for someone who's a judger. You have to know what your values are. You have to have a both and, or yes and, instead of no but attitude. Flexibility, rules, and asking questions and valuing differences is, I think, one of those most important things that we can do for one another. The relationships, if you think about a judger relationship versus a learner relationship, the judger is all about competition. I'm right, you're wrong, shut up. The learner is about how can we both win out of this? It's either agree or disagree, right or wrong. I think in our society right now, there's a whole lot of the judging going on and not enough of we're in this together, because we are in this together. We are all in this together, and we have to come together to figure out how to solve problems and achieve the greatness that we can become. So it's about dialogue and how we understand one another instead of just wanting to be right. I have to admit, there's been times in my life where I wanted to be right more than anything. And often it was with my husband. I'm right, you're wrong, shut up. But what I've discovered is, there's more than one right way. And I would rather be happy than right sometimes. And so it's a matter of being win-win, and how can we do this together? This is a fun little choice map that Dr. Adams put together. And you can use this in your head as you're going along the path of working with an employee, and you're asking them the what questions. Tell me what happened. What are the facts around this? What are you thinking? What are you thinking about? How did you come to this decision? Those are the learner questions. When you find yourself going the path of, okay, whose fault was it? Why in the world did you do it that way? What's wrong with you? Couldn't you come up with another decision? You can switch lanes in the path that you're on. You can stay on this learner path, but when you find yourself going down this judger path where it's right, wrong, blame, you can still switch. So catch yourself and ask yourself, am I being a judger right now? What are the facts, and what assumptions am I making? Am I just moving fast to get something done? What's really going on here? And how can I be the best person for my staff? So here's I think some great questions to be a learner versus a judger. Ask them what happened. Tell me what happened. Let's talk about this. What are your choices right now? What do you think your choices are right now? What do you think is possible instead of what's your problem? What's wrong with you? What will make you feel better? Those are some of the kinds of questions that you can put into your arsenal, put into your quiver of being a great manager, a great coaching manager, rather than a great demanding manager, a great coaching leader. And hopefully that will take you further and help your staff feel as if they're being supported by you and encouraged by you, rather than being bossed around by you, because most people don't like to be bossed around. So I want to remind us again of this quote by Peter Drucker, the great business leader. The leader of the past is a person who told, and the leader of the future is a person who asks. And the basic idea is to build up people and organizations around what works, rather than trying to fix what's broken. I was talking to another client this morning, and she was saying that, we've worked with this staff member for a year, trying to fix her into something that isn't the right fit. And if we had stopped and looked at what her strengths are, we would have realized she was not in the right job and she needed to be in another one. So I'd like you to think about how can you dwell on what's working for you and what's right with people and where they are, and instead of trying to fix a problem. And being a great coach is something that I think everybody's capable of, if you want to be. So I'm going to pause here, and we've got about 20 minutes for questions. And I'm offering a group high performance coaching program where I'm only going to take a limited number of people to be in my coaching group, where I'm going to coach you, and it's going to be over the 12 sessions of high performance coaching. And so the sign up is below, and I think it's going to be on the handout that the follow-up that Morgan is going to send out. But if you're interested, I'd say sign up fast, because there are only a few slots left, and I would love to have you participate. So I'm going to stop there, and then let's look at the questions. Will that be all right with you, Morgan?
That would be great. And just to follow up for the group, there will be, following this presentation, it'll go out this afternoon, a link to Patti's sign up. So if you're scribbling down notes or even taking a picture of the screen, you will be provided with a direct link to the sign up that you'll be able to access once you receive that email.
Great. Okay, so I've got a few questions here, and I'm going to read them off, and then if any others come in, Morgan, you let me know, okay?
Absolutely, thanks.
Mary Kay Taylor, the Vice President of Quality at Hospice of Western Reserve. Hello. She asks, how do you help an enthusiastic young employee with lots of potential to slow down and have a realistic career expectation? How many of you would like to have a enthusiastic young employee who you have to slow down? I think that's almost a wonderful problem to have, Mary Kay. I would say encouraging that person to focus in on just a few things. I always tell people, you don't have to solve every problem at once. Let's focus on being the very best at 2 or 3 things this quarter, and then become those, reach that goal, and then you're going to have another 2 or 3 things for the next quarter. And all of a sudden at the end of the year, you're going to have a dozen things that you've started and finished and accomplished and moved forward on when you take things at smaller chunks. Giving someone like that positive encouragement and reinforcement that you're really excited about helping them to grow, and understanding that there's a process. You can't go from here when you're down here, and know that there's a process. But if you're also not moving them fast enough, if they feel like they're accomplishing as much as they can on a faster pace, then give them another project to work on. A great question, and I'm happy that you have enthusiastic employees, that you're having to slow down and have a realistic career expectation. So Sandy, Sandy from Peace Hospice, what's the best way to encourage productivity without being punitive? You know, that's probably one of the most common things that supervisors have to deal with, isn't it? How do you help someone come up with the productivity standard without being punitive? So it's, again, asking those questions. First of all, here's where we need to be. Do you agree with that? Here's our standard of expectation. We have to admit this number of patients every week, or we have to make this number of visits, or whatever it might be. And they're not achieving that. So rather than just looking at the number and saying, you're not meeting the quota, you know, you're out of here, try and understand why, even though you might not want to ask them why. What is getting in their way? What is, what's the issue around them not being able to achieve the productivity? Is it a process? Maybe it's you know, some complicated process that you need to change, or maybe it's their style of work, or helping them to understand what they need to achieve is first, and then asking them the questions to have them come up with the answers of the things that are getting in their way. And is there another way to do that than the way that you think it could be done? It's not easy, Sandy, and I appreciate that, but positive reinforcement, if you can, is always a good thing to start with. Lori Millward from Community Hospice and Palliative Care, not too far from me. It's cold up there in Jacksonville too, or St. Augustine, or wherever you might be. How do you get buy-in for certification and continuing education, whether it's funded by work or not? You know, that's another great question. And I know that Community Hospice really holds a great value on having your staff accomplish certifications and go for further education. And I honor that about your organization. You might ask someone what's standing in their way, or what do they believe about us being a certified hospice nurse? What do they think that means to them? Are they going to get an increase in pay? Will that, or are there things going on in their own personal life that they simply don't have time to study right now? Sometimes, you know, you don't always know what's going on in someone's personal life, or maybe someone is not a very good student and they're afraid, or they're reluctant to try to put themselves out there at work. And if they fail, then, you know, they might don't want to look stupid in front of their colleagues. So again, trying to discover what's underlying that reluctance to go for a certification or a continuing education, and what's in it for them. That has to be part of it as well. It can't just be, you know, you got to do this because it's required, but this is why, because we hold ourselves to a higher level here at Community Hospice, and you know, maybe come at it from that direction. Thanks for the question, Lori. Heidi from Community Hospice and Palliative Care. Good for you. What are some of the common challenges associated with middle management? Oh my, I wish we could open up the phones and listen to the many challenges you all have. You know, I always thought that the middle manager has the hardest job in the organization, because you're the ones that have to take the direction from the folks at the top who come up with these great ideas, and the people who have to do the job. You're the one in the middle that has to blend it so it all comes together. And honestly, I think you have the hardest job in the world. Keeping your staff motivated and excited and tuned in to what these lofty goals are, and then believing in the mission of what you do. You know, I have this little book that I wrote, No Mission, No Margin. And I think that if you can always focus on why are we here? What is the purpose of our existence? Then you can all you can do is the best job that you can do. And you have to, if you disagree with the folks at the top, you have to do that privately and have your decisions, you know, discussed at that level. But when you're there, when you're having to share that vision and those new rules or the new processes or whatever it is, you have to be in lockstep with the leadership so that you all are coming at this at the same way. And that's what makes a strong organization. When you start complaining about, you know, I don't like that, it's so easy to get caught up in that. And when you hear your staff complaining, it's easy to get caught up in that too, because sometimes you might even feel that way yourself. But you have to say, you know what? Why are we here? We are here to serve people who are dying. And I think, and their families and our community. And I think sometimes we don't allow ourselves the full impact of the job that you're doing. You are standing with people who are going to be leaving this world, this earth, and you're supporting them in that next exit, the great big exit. It is powerful, powerful work. So if you can remember that, the importance of what you do, knowing that I know many of you have had hospice experiences yourself as a family member, and how important and profound that experience was for you. Your staff doing that every single day, for you all represent tens of thousands of people. So it's hard being a middle manager, but honestly, I think it's the most important job in an organization. So my heart's out to you, and do the best that you can do. Can you tell I get on my soapbox a little bit about that? So the last question from Megan King, who is with John C. Fremont Healthcare District. Oh, I can answer this question easily. Will this presentation be recorded and available to listen or watch at a later time? I'm going to turn that over to Morgan.
It absolutely will. In fact, we received, I think, 4 different questions about that. So again, later this afternoon, we will get the recorded version together, and then hopefully, and it takes us a little bit of time to get it up on the website, but we will be sending out the link. So if you continue to check that, it should be posted in the next couple of days. Patti, we did have one more question get submitted by Amy, and she asked, is coaching something to use with all employees, not just those with a performance issue?
I would say hands down, yes. In fact, I would almost rather see you use coaching with those people who don't need performance issues, because it's about lifting people up and helping them to be their best self at work and at home. You know, don't forget all the stuff people bring with them into this job. I always said you have to leave your worries and troubles at the door when you come into hospice work each day, and you go home and pick them back up. But we have to recognize, you know, there's challenges that people have in their own personal life, and we have to acknowledge those as well. I would say absolutely use coaching techniques for all of your employees, and certainly not just the ones who are not the greatest performers. But if you can remember Shamu and really focus on someone's strengths and reinforce their strengths, and you might even just try it. Don't let the person know you're trying it, but just say, all right, I'm going to do a pilot program or pilot project on this one employee, and I'm going to keep giving them positive encouragement and positive feedback and see what happens. And it's so easy to do. It's just leading from your heart, leading from your highest and best self. And you have to find your center and your highest and best self in order to give that to someone else. So don't forget, do your own work first before you try and work with other people. So, and the more you can do that, the more you know your own strengths and your own weaknesses, and the more you know your 3 words of whether it's joyful or confident or faithful or truthful, or whatever those 3 words are for you. Keep those first and foremost in your mind before you go into any one-on-one experience with an employee, so that you can remember, I'm going to stay true to who I am and allow them to be who they are. It's not rocket science. It's just leading with what you know to be best, being consistent, having clarity, having the energy, having the courage, the influence, and making sure that you haven't forgotten, again, who you are and what the mission of the organization is. And always stay true to that, and you won't go wrong.
Thank you so much, Patti. I'm sure that just like everyone on the call today, I have about 2 pages of notes that I took throughout. This was an incredible presentation. Every time we have an opportunity to work together, I learn so much. You know, some of the big takeaways: are you living your truth? I mean, so powerful to think through. And then again, reflecting on your 3 words as you're going into these conversations. To coaching is a process of helping individuals find their best self. I mean, it across the board, whether it's professionally, personally, just very, very powerful. So thank you so much for spending this past hour with us and sharing this presentation. Really excited for your new program, Coaching for High Performers. And just again, for everyone on the call, if you're interested in learning more, not only is the information here on your screen, but we'll be sending that out following the presentation. Encourage you to check out this recorded version, which will be available later this week. If anyone on your team missed it and you'd like to share it, you can just send them the link from our website. We will have that posted for quite some time, so please feel free to view that, as well as if you're interested in any of our upcoming webinars. All are free, and we encourage you to come and participate and ask questions, and we look forward to more webinars here in the future.
One more thing.
Yes.
I thank you all for the work that you do from my heart, and I honor and respect you for the work that you're doing for people who are dying and their loved ones. I'm 6 degrees separated from that sometimes, but I never forget that's who I ultimately work for. And I want to thank you for what you do for people. So it was a great opportunity. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Patti. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
And thank you all.
I hope to see some of you in my coaching group.
Have a great week, everyone. Thank you.